Greetings, Guardians of Soul. Deadly Tater here from Guardians of the Totem, coming at you again with another news video. I know, 2 news videos within 12 hours of each other, roughly. Kind of crazy, huh? But I didn't think that we would see any Destiny news until next week. And as you can see from the title of this article, Bungie has proved me wrong. Today we got a lot of news on Arc 3.0. We still don't know all the fragments, but we know what the aspects do, and we know how the classes are generally going to play out. And all I have to say is, dear God, Titans might actually end up being overpowered, like more than they already are. And Hunters rejoice, for you're finally getting another Arc super aside from the stinking glaive. Well, staff, but you know what I mean. Unfortunately, it is another variation on the staff, but it might actually be decent. So, let's take a little bit of a dive into what Bungie had to say about Arc 3.0. They first went on to say that the main thing that drove them is a power fantasy of moving fast. Essentially, just going fast and hitting stuff. Internally, they call it the whole W subclass because everything is built around moving forward and playing aggressive. Before we get into the class-specific stuff, we're going to go over some buffs and debuffs that they put alongside the Arc experience for every class. First, we get a buff called Amplified. So, after you defeat multiple targets with any Arc damage, you'll gain a speed boost. When you've been sprinting for a few seconds, you'll gain another speed boost, gain a pretty big damage reduction in PvE, and get an even longer slide. And if you run out of being amplified, then you'll still get to keep the speed boost as long as you're sprinting, which is kind of cool. Not the most exciting ability, but they get it. You know, gotta go fast. Basically the Sonic the Hedgehog subclass at this point. Now we get into the interesting bits. Blinding and Jolt. So, Arc by default gets the ability to blind in PvP and PvE. No longer will you need blinding nades to deal with stubborn enemies. I assume this won't work on champions, but this being built into the subclass, it might. So obviously, blinding works the same way it always has. Now, jolted enemies, when they're damaged, will send out chain lightning and damage anybody in their path. Again, maybe not the most unique debuff, but it's interesting and could prove annoying in trials, to say the least. Arc 3.0 also gives everybody access to ionic traces, which, when you collect them, give you back energy for all your abilities. It was in the middle of Warlock tree. I don't really know that anybody actually used these. So with Hunters, they wanted to reward players for staying close and being safe while in close quarters combat. They've given them tools to stay alive and while closing the gap around a melee combo. Of course, with the original Arc Staff, you can still do all the things the Arc Staff can do, blocking the flight projectiles. You get an armored dodge, however, meaning you're more resistant to incoming damage when you dodge while in your Arc Staff super. Now here's where Hunters can rejoice. They're introducing a new super, the Gathering Storm, where the Hunter will leap into the air, throw the staff into the ground, or into an enemy depending on your aim, and it's going to emit a damaging burst that jolts everybody nearby, and then, not long after that, a second bolt of lightning is going to strike the staff and overcharge it, creating a damage over time effect for several seconds around the staff. While it's overcharged, it'll send out arcs of lightning to damage anything near it. Hunter keeps the combination blow, and then we come to the 3 aspects. The Hunter is going to get flow state. If you defeat a jolted opponent, you become amplified. When you become amplified, your dodge recharges faster, and you are more resistant to damage. And you reload quicker. Okay, cool. Tempest Strike. The Hunter can perform a sliding melee that launches an arc wave along the ground, doing significant damage to enemies and jolting anything in its path. Finally, Lethal Current. After dodging, the Hunter's melee lunge range is increased. Their next melee attack jolts the target, and creates damaging lightning aftershock. When used with the arc staff super after dodging, the hunter's next staff light attack hits twice. In addition, hitting a jolted enemy with a melee attack will blind them. Jesus Christ. Okay. So essentially, if you're running 6 Coyote and you have 2 dodges, not only are you going to get your dodges back faster, which is insane, but you're going to be able to jolt enemies with your staff attack, or without your staff attack, and if you're using the arc staff super, you're going to hit them twice when you hit a light attack. So in PvP, hunters might actually be PvP meta going forward again. Although maybe not because of how Titans play out, we'll see. But you dodge, someone's coming close to you, hit them twice with your arc staff with a light attack, you get your dodge back, plus you've got 2 dodge charges from 6 Coyote. That's insane. And Arc 3.0 is also bringing Blink back to the Arc Hunters. And Blink will get a buff for any other classes that have it. So it's going to have a longer travel distance and reworked recharge. So that we'll see how that plays out. Warlocks, on the other hand, are going to have 2 melees. The Ball Lightning sends out a floating ball of arc energy that detonates, zapping enemies from above. And Chain Lightning, which will send out arcs of lightning to strike and jolt primary targets, and chain lightning to other enemies. So, with Warlocks, though, you really want to be amplified, because if you're amplified, then all your abilities will be modified. So, for example, the Ball of Lightning, the Arc Ball will fly out and zap enemies 3 times instead of just 1 time, and you can get more damage out of it. For Chain Lightning, it changed to more target. It's pretty interesting. So, aspects. Of course, Warlock's going to get the Arc Soul for any class, any super for Arc. They're not going to get rid of Arc Soul, as annoying as it is. It works the same as before, except now when you're amplified, it will have supercharge and increased rate of fire. Lightning Surge. The Warlock will activate their melee while sliding to transform into a ball of lightning, teleport forward, calling down a field of lightning bolts at the exit point that jolts targets. That's kind of interesting. And Electrostatic Mind. Arc ability kills on arc debuffed enemies, create ionic traces. That deals with you getting amplified. So that's specifically just to get buffed, which is interesting. Titans. This is where it gets kind of interesting, because Titans aren't known for their swift movement. Thunder Crash is pretty much unchanged, aside from any changes they make to any exotics. Fist of Havoc has an adjusted slam radius. It's halfway between top and bottom path, and the ground slam leaves behind a damaging field in its wake while slamming from the air, causing AoE. So, that's alright. I still think Thunder Crash is going to be the way to go. But Titans are getting a whole ass new class ability. Thruster. By double tapping your button, the Titan bursts in the air, bursts in their throttle direction at speed, performing a quick first-person evade. Sort of like a hunter's dodge. So, Titans get a fucking dodge now. That's kind of badass. Alright. So, Titans are going to keep their Seismic Strike shoulder charge, blinding enemies. Performing a Seismic Strike will amplify will increase rates of blind, and the blinding effect will last longer. And the Ballistic Slam is coming back, where players can slam the ground after sprinting in the air, creating a damaging explosion upon impact. We also get a brand new melee, Thunderclap. So, the Titan will hold the melee button, charge up arc energy that can be unleashed in either a powerful quick jab, or held and built up to be unleashed in a furious one-punch man style blast. Okay. The charge state cannot be stored, and the Titan must be on the ground to charge the punch. The damage is significant. A 90% charged Thunderclap will one-shot Guardians in PvP, but the reward will be bounced by the time it takes to build up that charge level, and the fact that you must remain stationary to charge, always a dangerous move in PvP. What the hell? That sounds insane. However, I think they did a decent job balancing it in PvP. We'll see how that actually plays out. So Arc 3.0 Titans will have their aspects. We got Touch of Thunder, improves arc grenades and flying wave. Flashbang. So the Flashbang will fire an additional blind impulse on its first bounce. Pulse grenades will create ionic traces when they damage an enemy, and their damage increases over time. Lightning grenades grants an additional charge for lightning grenade and jolts targets on an initial blast. The Storm Grenade is going to create a roaming thundercloud that moves and tracks enemies near it. Fire lightning bolts in the ground underneath. What the hell? Now this is what I'm worried about in PvP mostly. Juggernaut. While sprinting and with full class ability energy, the Titan gains a frontal shield that blocks incoming damage. When amplified, the shield is stronger. Once the shield is depleted by taking damage, the player's class energy is depleted. So if you got a Titan who's amplified in PvP, and they have full class energy and they're sprinting, you better hope you can bust that fucking shield. Knockout. Melee kills are going to trigger health regeneration and make the Titan amplified. Critically wounding an enemy or breaking their shield increases melee range and damage for a brief period. And the Titan's base melee becomes arc empowered while knockout is active. Again, that's probably going to prove to be meta in PvP. No doubt about it. So, yeah, look for Titans to be even more fucking annoying, I guess. It is what it is. We'll see how it plays out. Maybe Titans won't be too meta. I look for Hunters to become a bit more popular, especially on Arc. And they close out with showing us a few of the fragments coming. So Spark of Beacons. When the player is amplified, Arc special weapon kills create a blinding explosion. Spark of Resistance. When surrounded by enemies, the player has increased damage resistance. That's actually kind of badass. Spark of Momentum. Sliding over enemy will reload your weapon and grant a small amount of melee energy. Sliding over hammy ammo increases the amount of energy a player is granted. And Spark of Shock. The player's arc grenades jolt enemies. So that's already based on some grenades, but could be useful for grenades that don't. Overall, what are my thoughts on Arc 3.0? Well, just purely from reading it, I will say, 1. Hunters rejoice. You finally have another melee option, and it looks like you're actually going to be able to live out the fantasy of a hunter and be able to go fast. Warlocks don't seem too much stronger than they are now, but we'll wait and see once things are actually built. I will be playing each of these classes and giving my thoughts on all the classes, hopefully before the raid comes out. We'll see how my time works out, because I'm also working on Saints Row next week. That's beside the point. And Titans, yet again, like with Laurel Splendor, will be a force to be reckoned with in PvP. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you couple in the fact they're already a force to be reckoned with Thunder Crasher. Even Fist of Havoc is actually the better PvP super in my opinion, but that's beside the point. Now the fact that they can not only dodge, basically, but have that shield if they don't use their class ability, this is going to create some interesting PvP metas, and I don't know how I feel about that. But that about wraps it up. I'd like to hear what you all think in the comments of this video. As always, if you like the video, leave it a thumbs up, share, subscribe, obviously comment, because I want to get the discussion going about Arc 3.0, but all that jazz to help the algorithm. And until next time, Guardians, I shall see you Starside.